We're PTK!
Thanks for watching. This is our HIA project to raise awareness for homelessness.
Hi, my name's Aiden Bodier. We'll be interviewing Mr. Clifton today to hear his story. Can you state your full name for the camera, sir?
Yes, Clifton Williams Jr.
Clifton Williams Jr.? All right. Where are you from?
I'm from Pascagoula.
Pascagoula. We're just saying in every interview, if you're uncomfortable at any point, just let us know and we'll stop the camera for you.
Yeah, I'm good.
All right. Just wanted to start off by asking, what was your life like before you became homeless?
I became homeless in, well, actually my wife died in '99, and I worked jobs to 2000, about 2005, 2006, but I couldn't deal with the pain and the agony of my wife. So I started using drugs and stuff, and that led to not want to work. So I started doing other things, you know. And in 2015, I just gave up. I went and got me a tent and just went to the woods. So after that, I traveled, you know, hobo trains and talked to all type of other people, you know. Like I said, the homeless situation is different for everybody. It's always because when I was out there, when I was in Eugene, Oregon, I think it was, during the COVID, and I was staying out there in the woods. Some old white people, they let me stay on their phone. You know what I'm saying? I didn't know them and they didn't know me. But I helped them out and stuff like that. But I was still longing for my wife, you know, so I just kept doing things and doing, you know, drugs and drinking and having fun, just didn't care about me out here on the streets. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
But like I said, I have talked to doctors, lawyers, police, ex-veterans that was out here also on these streets. And each one of their situations was different.
Yes, sir.
Was different.
And,
But I stayed homeless on 2015 until April of this year. Yeah, I was out there.
yes, sir. That's a
I was
long
out there,
time.
but I was traveling, doing testing the trains and stuff like that, and learning how to get along with people. When you're homeless, you have to try to maintain your sensibility. In other words, you have to have an understanding, not with yourself, but with other people. And you have to go and like find somebody in a restaurant that you might be cool with so they can give you some food or bring you some food. You have to go and find somebody that's cool at a store so they can help you out on beer and cigarettes and all that when you're homeless. You know, it's a life of, to me, it's a life of unparalleled. I say that because it is unparalleled. You don't know what's going to happen from the moment that you're out there. And I had close calls in them woods. Had close calls with bobcats, wild dogs. I had to worry about snakes. And then I had to worry about other people coming there and try to rob me or take what I had. You know what I'm saying? The homeless world, it's very hard, and it's very, very, very hard and tough. If individuals feel like you're weak, they gonna come and take your tent, your blanket, and everything you got. Because why? Because you can't tell them. You can't say nothing because most people don't have no ID, no social security card, or nothing to say that who are they. You feel me?
Yes, sir.
And like I say, I was in Mobile, Alabama in 2016, and I met a guy named Boxcar Willie. That's the guy that taught me how to get stuff and how to hobo train. So I took up with him for about a year, and we was hoboing trains all over the country. Didn't pay the damn penny, just hobo. And you know, I landed up in Baltimore, Maryland, Oregon, Texas. I've been all through Florida, Louisiana, New York, stayed at the Bronx, the Bronx, New York. I stayed up there for 6 months. And until a shop owner found out that I wasn't from there, I was from the South, so he gave me a little part-time job. You know, taking out the trash and sweeping, you know, stuff like that. Something that helped me out a little bit. But they liked the way how I talk. So they said, "Where you from?" "I'm from Mississippi." "Oh man." So they had all kind of questions to ask. So I got smart. I said, "Look, if y'all want me to talk, y'all gonna have to pay me. If you want me to talk to y'all, pay me something. Cause y'all know I'm home. I ain't got nowhere to go. I ain't got nowhere to stay. And you know, you help me out to take a shower or something." So that happened for about 6, 7 months. Then I left there, went to Maryland. You know, I was doing all this by myself, hobo and train. I ain't paid nothing. But it was dangerous. It was dangerous, and you know, being homeless, you have to take all types of chances. All types of chances, especially when you need to take a shower. If you can't find no church that has a water fountain, the next thing you're gonna do, try to go to somebody's house that has a hose, and make sure that the person ain't there so you can sneak and take a shower. Or wipe out, or either get you some money up and gather and go to a truck stop and pay the $5 or $10, whatever it is. But you have to be on your P's and Q's, I can say. You got to always look around and can't trust really nobody but him. But during my time, like I said, I was just trying to hide my feelings, and I was trying to not to think about my wife and my plight, you know, because I love it, that one.
Yes, sir. So, what was your motivation? Oh, I'm sorry.
My motivation
Yes, sir.
to get me off the streets,
Yes, sir.
I was in, I think it was Biloxi, Mississippi, a couple of years ago. And guy gave me a phone number to call Open Doors. So when I was in other places, I had called try to get off the street, but they would never, you know, help me. You know what I'm saying? But so I called them, and I didn't think nothing of it. I was saying, "Oh shit, they ain't gonna help me. I'm homeless." You know what I'm saying? And that's the mindset that I had got because I had been out there so long. But the camps, I would go in, everybody knew me, because I would always talk, yak about football and different stuff, but it's not fun. It's not fun. You have to have all your belongings in one bag and take everything with you. You can't leave nothing behind, because if you do, somebody gonna get it. Somebody gonna get it. Yeah, the homeless steal from the homeless, and that's the same. But it takes from one another. It's a dog-eat-dog world when you're homeless. Yeah, because you don't know who you could depend on,
Yes, sir.
or what might happen, or what might arise.
So in that time period when you were getting housed by Open Doors, what was the most challenging part of the transition from being homeless to being housed?
Like I said, when I called them, I didn't think that they would come until that day they came to my tent over in Biloxi. I was at Biloxi over there in Mercy Cross. They let us stay out there. And lady, Miss Kathy and Anton, they coming up to my tent. Hey, Mr. Clifton. I said, who is it? About 30 minutes to find the opening. Because, I can't see that well. My eyesight has failed. I have glaucoma. And I only can see what's in front of me. So I blame the Lord sent them at that particular time to me. This just happened in April.
Yes, sir.
In April, I was out here since 2015, and I only been out since April. But being in an apartment, it's kind of strange to me, because I'm used to sleeping in a tent, and the apartment is very big to me. It's way bigger than sleeping in a tent. So you can barely turn in a tent, you can barely turn around. But you're surrounded. But me being in there, I'm still learning how to keep my dishes clean and try to keep the house clean. And now I got to make up a bed. I'm so used to that.
Right.
And I thank Open Doors, and I thank the Lord for sending this cat in there, to help me. But like I say, I didn't think when I was in other places, when I had called them people, they ain't do nothing. So I just brushed it off until it actually happened.
Do you remember how long it was from when you called to when they got to you?
Yeah, I called them January. And then I called them again in February, and I left a message. So when March, April, they was knocking at my chin. It took them less than 2 months to go and get it.
That's great. That's incredible.
Yeah. But like I say, I'm still learning. Man, I be sitting outside, just me and my cat, because that's the whole thing I got, my cat and the Lord. But we be sitting outside, I be talking to him, and I can go to a refrigerator, look in there and get me a cold drink. You know what I'm saying? I ain't got to build no fire to cook nothing now, because I got a stove. Because I burned up everything, but I got a stove. I ain't got to worry about building no fire. Yeah.
Is there any advice for somebody who is like homeless that you would want to give them Uh, any advice or motivations to pass on?
Well, the only good advice I could give is have faith, believe in the Lord, and believe in yourself. That's about all the advice that I could give. You know, cause like I said earlier, we all out here from different circumstances. We all out here for one reason or another. But you know, like I said, my plight, it was pretty good. Because I was traveling. I was going everywhere. Moving. That's when my eyes got bad. See, my eyes got bad a couple of years ago. That before I met Open Doors. But they did a good job.
Yes, sir.
They did a good job for me.
Yeah,
As of
absolutely.
now. But like I say, I'm still getting used to having an apartment. I'm still getting used to going sit down on the toilet. You know, out there, the whole woods.
Right.
Get some tissue, grab your shirt and go about your business. But I'm used to, you know, I'm getting used to it. I tell Miss Kathy all the time, man, I be seeing things up in here. What? I ain't used to this. I'm used to my tent. Yeah, yeah.
We got one final question for you. So, is there any like misconceptions or stigmas about the homeless people that you would like to clear up? That not everybody is a certain way. That everybody thinks about homeless people.
Nah, see, I learned this here about that. People gonna always misjudge the book before they read it. They're gonna always do that. But I learned by my being homeless and talking to different people, I found out that we are all one people. We all belong to Him. See what I'm saying? And if people start acting like that we are somebody, we're not nothing because we choose out here on other circumstances being homeless. That don't make us bad. That don't make us ugly. You know, like I say, I talk to doctors, lawyers, uh, army people been in the army, all these intelligent people that was homeless. You know, and like I said, believe in the Lord and ask the Lord and have faith. That's what I would say. Have faith. Because there's somebody out there that'll help you. There's somebody out there that'll help you. But before Jesus left, Jesus told his disciples to love your neighbor. To love your neighbor. And if we get that perception and loving our neighbors, which is in and everybody, and be able to go out and help people. Because, you know, they need tissue, they need soap, they need socks, they need everything that you guys that have a house take for granted. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
Food, you know, like noodles, romaine noodles. If you can get romaine noodles, they can always build a fire. And they can always find a big can to cook them in. You know, so that's what I would say. That's what I would say.
Hi, my name's Thomas Ferguson, and today we're interviewing Cody to spread awareness to her story. My name's Thomas, and you're Cody?
Yes,
Okay, so where are you originally from?
Kosciuszko, Mississippi.
What was the most challenging part of the transition from being homeless to being housed?
That's a good question. Routine. when you're on the street and you're homeless, you live in a constant state of fight or flight. So when you finally have found yourself in a position, in a place where you can breathe and you can inhale and you're safe, you can actually eat like the things, so many things that are taken for granted on a daily basis, you know,
Yeah.
by some. It's getting in the routine of even just discipline, making your bed every day. Like those are things that do come natural on the aspect of you finally have a bed. You finally have,
Yeah.
it's something to make up, you know, so you're proud of that. But stepping back out there, that routine, when your body, being homeless is an exhausting mindset.
And you haven't always keep on
Yes.
going, there's no stop.
Right. So when you finally can, you're really playing catch up on so many levels mentally and even physically, because you're pushing your body so much when you're out there. You're walking, you're not riding, it's just a totally different world. Though all of the beautiful things come with finally having that roof over your head and you're celebrating so many things, at the same time, you're learning to live again.
Yeah.
You're learning how to put those things in order. Priorities are obviously first. It's very overwhelming. It's very overwhelming for sure. And you have a fear in the back of your mind to a certain extent of how long will that even last.
Yeah.
Because, you know, in embracing the moment at first, it's too good to be true because you've lived the opposite for so long. But when you finally embrace that moment, it's like, okay, so you don't want to mess up. You don't want to make any mistakes because you never want to have to fall back and go back into what you just survived coming out of.
So, what was your motivation or inspiration or hope that kept you going while being homeless?
God.
God? What was your life before coming homeless?
Feel like, you know, if anything, this can help others because the emotions are real, you know.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm sorry, can you ask me?
Yes, ma'am. It's what was your life before becoming homeless?
So I've been married for 10 years. Just to back up, at 19, I modeled in New York for 2.5 years. I had 2 children. I was married for 10. So I had what I thought was an amazing life. I had a lot of plans that was disrupted. And I came home one day and my spouse had another woman that was in my home and she was pregnant. So my entire world got turned upside down. And in the midst of that, God did something in my life. So I was going through, right before the homelessness hit, I was going through a state in my marriage where God had called me directly toward Him, and my husband was running directly toward the world. So that put us running 2 different directions, you know. With that being said, when I left everything behind. And the car that I did have was actually towed from a friend's house, so I didn't have transportation. Those 2 aspects was the beginning of my spiral, personally. Everything I knew for 10 years was gone. Then no way to travel, get a job, keep a job, anything. That left me in a state of stay where you can stay, live where you can live. You find yourself in many places you don't need to be in, but just to have a roof, and then that turns into you can't do that either. So you just live scattered. It's like a couch and then a room, and then who can you trust? You know, that's when it starts gravitating. And in that time frame, that's whenever I picked up alcohol. Just taking in everything, not knowing how to handle everything. I knew for a fact that God was real. I knew for a fact that God was with me, but my surroundings weren't changing. Every effort I was making wasn't changing, you know, so I just dove deeper into the alcohol. Yes, it's in those moments that I've learned through being homeless, and the way that things, you know, we all have some type of a pattern that has hit us at some point, some type of a storm. It may not have started out as large, but then if you don't listen the first time, you're going to have another storm. It might be a little bit bigger. If you don't listen that time, you might go through another one, and that one may not be the one you make it out of.
Yes,
You know, with that being said, this was a storm that shook me, but it broke me in such an aspect that that's where His light did shine. That's where His love did shine. You know, So despite all of the bad that came with the homelessness, it left my dependence solely on him, fully on him and what he could do, you know, because there was nothing that I could do.
With what misconception / stigma do people have about homelessness that you would like to dispel?
Well, first and foremost, these were things that I've heard, and then things that I've learned from being out there myself. No one chooses to be homeless, first of all. No one chooses to be homeless. No, I do not care, even if there are, even if mental disability is in play. No one would ever choose that lifestyle. And everyone that's homeless is not an addict. That's not true either. You know, that spiral for me would have never started if I'd had a home. I mean, that's the whole root of it. You know, that was your safe place, your safe haven. The world, when you're out there on the street, for example, everyone passes you by and you feel invisible. So if you notice, if you ever approach a homeless person and you go to offer them food, the second you hand it to them, usually they'll say, "God bless you." And it's because they've sat in that spot or in a million other places in that one area that's as far as they can go, you know, and they've watched so many people pass them by, but the whole time they've been talking to one person. And that one person was literally the hands and feet that showed up. Even if they didn't know what to pray to God in the moment, God knows what we feel. He knows our hearts and what we need, even when we don't know what we need. So for society to keep passing people up and to do it on the aspect of, oh, well, they had to have done something to get there. That's not true. That's not true. It's just simply not true. And so many homeless people do not have family to help them. They don't have a father or a mother, whether they're deceased or whether they're not close. I mean, a million little things can destroy families, especially in this day and time. But none of that has anything to do always with why that person ended up there. They just don't have the resources or the help or anyone to check in on them, anyone to be consistent in their life. You know,
they don't have no one to talk to.
Right. And it takes someone homeless to really understand what it's like being homeless, truly.
But you said you were from New York.
No, I moved to New York when I was 19 with a few dollars and with a dream, and then I told my mom I'd call her or see her in 2 weeks, and I ended up there for like 2.5 years.
And how did you get, so you originally from here and you went to New York. How did you wind up coming back from New York to here?
Relationships, who was later my husband. He was still here, and I wanted to come home and have a family. That wasn't a place to have a family, you know, not New York City. So I came back here and raised my children throughout those following years, and ended up remarrying because I went through a divorce, remarried, and that was the marriage that went south. I didn't have a backup plan.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I mean, you plan for those things to last. That's the point of getting married. You know, you don't ever foresee things going south with that, but God steps in and He changes everything.
So, based on all we talked about, what advice would you give to someone who is homeless and is seeking help?
There's factors in that. I just say that because I know as a woman, the few times that I tried reaching out for help, it was hard to find places for women if you didn't have children that were with you. So that's hard as far as the world's concerned, the counties, depending on what places are out there. For me, it was so different. When I needed a place to stay and I needed a roof before the addiction set in, it wasn't there because I didn't have an addiction. So it's like, well, what are you supposed to do, you know?
Yes, ma'am.
And then by the time I had an addiction, it was like, okay, well, the second I hit rehab, which was Home of Grace in Gaucher, then yeah, like not only was I there to get help, but I finally had a roof. So it's like the two come together for me at the same time. So I can speak from a perspective, if you've been in addiction, then the first place to go, first thing to do would be to get help through a rehab, preferably a faith-based rehab. That's my personal opinion.
Yes, ma'am.
I say faith-based because they're going to keep you in the Word of God, and so much of that pain that triggered the addiction or whatever that made you run from people, when you can spill that all out to the Lord while you're receiving healing and getting away from them. You're in just a rehab. They may have 12 steps. They may have certain things for people to go through, but if God's not in it, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Then I've seen so many people that end up going back and they don't understand why they've been in rehab like 13 times.
Yes, ma'am.
13 times is a lot to go through rehab, and then they think something's wrong with them. Something wrong with them. It's just that's a bondage, and only God can deliver us from such things, you know. Then you've got people on the street that don't realize that it's bondage. They think something's wrong with them, but again, they're buried in pain. So, and once you've been out there long enough, things can be so dark. Because you've been, like you were saying, you know, because you've been in that state for so long that it's hard for a person's mind to think. It's like they've exhausted all aspects.
And they don't have time to think about
Right, they're just
that. They're
fighting to
just
survive.
keeping
Yeah.
it going.
And even telling others, asking for help. When you've been told no so many times,
You just stop.
you stop. Absolutely, you stop. And you begin to feel like a burden. Because you can see the look. I remember just seeing the looks on people's faces, like so much so that I finally would walk and just hold my head down. I would watch where I was going, but I didn't want to look at anybody. I mean, the shame and the guilt that's on your face when that was before even drinking, just being homeless. I remember being in between Coke machines in front of a gas station, and you're trying to squeeze and sit in between the machines because you don't want, as a woman, you don't want men to see you sitting there by yourself. And if the store sees you, they'll call on you, right? You have to leave. So it's those type situations that, from a female perspective, you know, it's really hard on women out there. They don't know where to go, what to do.
Because they become an easy target for
Absolutely.
everybody.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
the business, the men, it's all.
And for anyone that's out there up to no good, they view homeless women as an easier target because who's going to miss them? You know, who's going to miss them if they disappear? At least that's the thoughts that go through your mind as a woman, you know.
And that's where that fight or flight takes in. Like you said, you remember yourself being in between two Coke machines.
Yeah.
The tactical thing right there is it's a safe spot because it's two metal objects that's protecting. You got one way in, one way out.
One way in, yes.
Yes,
One way
ma'am.
out.
I definitely agree with that. So, with my last question before she asks you two questions, how did you find out about Open Doors and how did they help you?
So, I was at Sue's home, which I know them as Community Care Network, I believe.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm not real familiar with Open Doors. But so when I was at Home of Grace, I was there for maybe a month, and the Lord put it on my heart to apply for transitional living. I knew that I never wanted to go back to what was. I knew that a part of that healthiness and going forward in life, holding on to God's direction was to stay here. The only way to stay here when you were homeless before you got there is to transition. So I applied for Sue's home. I applied for one other place that was in Biloxi, and I began to pray. So much so that I was like, Lord, if you answer for both, you know I'm still going to pick this one over here, you know, which was Sue's home. So from Home of Grace, I was able to tour it one day from Home of Grace because you don't get to leave since you're in rehab. It's a 90-day program. And the first day that I stepped foot into Sue's home, I cannot even explain to you the overwhelming, like,
The relief.
I lost like 50 pounds on my shoulders. It was so hard to explain because I felt safe. I knew that my bed was going to still be there day to day to day.
And your stuff was going to
And
not be
I had a
stolen.
closet to simply hang up clothes in. I had the bottom of a closet if I needed to, which didn't have anything. I had a trash bag and the same shoes I had worn for 2 years on my feet through winter and summer. They were like little Nike slides. So up until I got to rehab, I had that one trash bag and that one little pair of shoes. So Sue's home, gave me the immediate sensation of, this is gonna work. Like, wow, like this is real. The main thing that kept me out there was not having a car, no way to get a job, no way to do any of that. I didn't even have a social security card, didn't have any way to get a social security, like I had no identification. I really was just a face out there. So they helped me to do that. They helped me to get my driver's license. They helped, or a copy better, to get my social security card and to establish my presence, my feet on the ground again, to get a job. And then took me to work every single day, picked me up every single day. So that gave me the opportunity to have a job, save money, and
restart
actually,
your life.
yes, and restart my life. And that was, I went in the weekend of June 22nd, and that was 2023, and I just left from there this June. So I've been out
Yes, ma'am.
4 months now, yeah, with my.
So, to retouch on that, so what did the organization help you get, like your social security card, your driver's license, all of this, or did you have to find your way, or how'd that all
They
come
helped
about?
me.
They
Yes,
helped
they
you?
helped me. So from the moment you get there, between your counselors and everyone overseeing your case, your situation, because all of ours are different, then they know, from the door if you need your driver's license. They know if you have, a person had fines or something they had to pay, if there have been previous legal issues and so forth. If you have a court date that would have been coming up, and they take you to and from all of that. So they help you to handle all of your responsibilities, get everything back in correct order, and then go forward from there, as far as becoming established again, and getting your feet on solid ground.
And with us co-work or partnering with all we reached out to most of the nonprofit organizations throughout Jackson County.
Right.
And got them to come here at every meeting we've had for our officer team. We've worked with them, we've been talking to them, and that's one of the reasons that we've started our donation drive, is for those things, like, when you finally got your house, that closet was empty, you didn't have anything.
Right. What I have on right now is donations. That's still,
Yes, ma'am.
except for the shoes.
And that's our whole goal, is to get more stuff for you and all the unsheltered people that are getting put in these homes to have something
Right.
that they can call their own.
And it helps and it matters. Every little bit matters.
Yes,
All
ma'am.
of it matters. Even if it's a gift card, if you don't know what to get, you want to make sure it's being used appropriately. You know what I mean? All those things matter, because everyone's situation is different. Like for me, it was moving into an RV, so I didn't have a lot of room to put anything, but it was a roof. You know what I mean? So
It's shelter.
it's shelter, yes.
Keep
It's
you
a safe place, and it's what I call my home. With that being said, though, everyone's needs are different. I do live on my own. My sons are grown, so I think what you guys are doing is absolutely awesome.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
But
awesome.
we're more proud of you for being here where you've gotten today.
Thank you. That's all because of God.
Yes, ma'am. You want a hug?
Yes, thank you. Oh, that makes me miss my son.
Hi, my name is Tiffany Stewart. Today we'll learn about Sequoia's story and bring awareness to the homeless population.
My name is Sequoia. I'm originally from Indiana. I moved to Mississippi when I was 12, and I've been here ever since.
So, what was your life like before becoming homeless?
I was with family. I just grew up with my family.
Yeah.
Do you want me to tell you how I got homeless?
Yeah.
Because that's okay. My mom kicked me out when I was 18 after I graduated from high school, and I bounced around from place to place. And I never really had a home until I got brought in by Community Care Network, and that's where I've been.
How did you hear about community care?
I went to a trade school called Job Corps, and a lady from Job Corps got me in contact with Community Care Network. I was in Jackson, Mississippi originally, and they moved me to Goshen.
What has been your motivation, inspiration, or hope throughout this transition?
Just to stay positive. That's really been my motto, is to just stay positive and try to turn every situation into something good. Just keeping a positive outlook on things.
What stigmas would you like to dispel against homelessness that people have?
That homeless people aren't, I don't like that it's not a choice, or like some people can't help that they're how they became homeless or why they're homeless. It's not that they don't want to work or that they just don't want to have a home, I guess. I don't know.
You're good.
Yeah, I just want to say that homelessness is not a choice.
How did community care help you the most?
Well, just by giving me a place to call my own, that was really special, really amazing, really. I'm just blessed for the opportunity. I've been able to see doctors and work on my mental health and even apply to NGCCC. So
Wow.
yeah, I'll be
What
here
are
in
you
the
gonna be
spring.
studying?
Business.
Business?
So, yeah.
That's exciting.
Thank you.
Well, congratulations.
Hi, my name is Joelis Pacheco. Today we're interviewing Miss Teresa to share her story and raise awareness of the homeless population.
So my name is Joelis, and if there's any topic that we discuss today that makes you uncomfortable and you'd like us to turn the camera off, feel free to tell us, and we will do that for you. Would you start off by introducing yourself, your name, and where you're from?
Hi, my name is Teresa Jones. I was born in Houston, Texas. For a majority of my daughter's life, she'll be 15 in January, we've lived in North Mississippi in a little country town called Independence, about 30 minutes from Memphis. And we currently reside in Pascagoula, Mississippi.
And what brought you from Memphis to Mississippi?
Well, initially, the main reason that we are in the situation that we are in today is because I didn't have enough money saved up whenever my mom died. That's really, current problems that we have today, they all fall back on me. My daughter, like I said, she'll be 15 in January. She spent the first 10 years of her life in a country home with my parents. And so after my mom passed and I didn't have the finances that I should have prepared for, we tried living with family members in Memphis. We moved to Las Vegas and tried living near her father there. And so I rented a U-Haul and drove back to Memphis to be near her, or back to our family. And that did not work out well. So we ended up at a very nice group home called Safe in Tupelo, Mississippi. The workers there were extremely nice and capable, and they referred us to a group home here in Pascagoula called Adrian's House. Mm-hmm. And Safe and Adrian's House helped us find the Open Doors Homeless Coalition program. And so while my daughter and I, because we were staying at these group homes, I was trying to keep my daughter, from actually being on the street. But there were a few nights whenever we were in Las Vegas at her father's that I spent the night in that in the U-Haul, but we weren't on the street. So trying to prevent us from doing that.
What would you say was the most challenging part from being homeless to being housed?
What was the most challenging part?
Yes, ma'am.
The most challenging part by far for me, for myself personally, is the transition. Like I said, we lived in the country with my mom and her husband, and they were elderly. And so they were quiet. And so it was just my mom, her husband, me, and my little girl. And so going from that quiet countryside to living with multiple people that are that, even though they're going through the same crisis that we are, similar, still being with a whole bunch of other people at one time versus the quiet country that we're used to, I guess would be.
Most challenging.
Yes.
What was
Besides not having money or a home or, okay.
what was your motivation that kept you going while being homeless?
My daughter. Sometimes, when we have our children, and so the love that we have for them, if it weren't for them, sometimes it feels like we might not have a reason to keep going. But definitely, I would encourage anybody that's going, whatever struggles or things you're going through in life, it doesn't have to be homelessness, it can be anything, just don't give up. It's hard to see the bright side of things while we're going through them. But later on in life, we sometimes see how if bad things didn't happen, we wouldn't have the same morals or beliefs that we do today. And so we see later on in life sometimes that things do happen for a reason, and that they can be beneficial toward us.
What misconceptions do people have about homeless people that you'd like to dispel?
Perhaps that they are unintelligent, that they're stupid, that they're, I don't know. But, sometimes people may just be going through a difficult time, and financial hardship and need some help to get back on their feet.
Did you ever encounter anyone who, while you were in that situation, that insulted you and, related to those stigmas that you were just speaking about?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, they have. They have. We can see it every day in our society, the way that we not idolize, but sort of like movie stars and actresses, and so luxury and beauty is very much emphasized in this country. So if there are certain days where you look pretty, you're going to notice people are nicer to you, and so if there's a certain time in your life where you're driving a really nice car, you're going to notice, as you get out of the car, people treat you a little bit differently than either your walk to the store or if you're driving a raggedy piece of crap car to the store. We can see that every day, that people view things differently based on our outward appearance.
How long did it take for you to find and obtain housing? And how long were you in that situation where you were living in the U-Haul?
Well, I didn't live in the U-Haul very long.
Right.
My baby's daddy and I had an altercation. My little girl's father and I had an altercation, and so, but I did spend a number of nights in the back of it. I did have my mattress and stuff back there. And I apologize. What is the initial question that?
Just how long did it take for you to find and obtain housing?
Okay, so we drove the U-Haul back to Memphis, Tennessee. And after we were in safe, we were just there for a few months. And they suggested that we come to this area. We stayed at Adrian's house in Pascagoula, Mississippi, which is another group home that's for homeless and domestic violence. And I think that we were there for 7 months. Adrian's house suggested that I take, or brought to my attention that they have free classes at Gulf Coast Community College to take welding. So I was already on campus today whenever this was going on. And so anyway, I'm trying to learn a new career in this area where I can get back on my feet and not receive assistance from so many different group homes or organizations. But I'm thankful that they do have things like that available to help people whenever we need some help.
What did you do before? What was your previous career?
I've been an assistant manager at Wendy's for most of my life. I started when I was 16, and I got multiple promotions and everything, but I've spent over a decade asking people, may I take your order, and how would you, how would you like this prepared? And so I just really want to, I'm in a different transition, crossroads in my life. I would really like to do something different.
How did you find out about Adrian's home and Open Doors and the safe where you were at in Memphis? Who brought those resources to your attention?
While we were in Memphis, we were staying at my family's house. I got into an altercation with my family, and my cousin's boyfriend, he smacked me pretty hard across the face. And it knocked me, it was just one, he only hit me one time, but it knocked me unconscious. And that was early on Sunday morning. And so we still, my daughter and I, we still went ahead and got up and went to church because we've been going to this church, or walking like a mile or so to this church down the road. And so we still went ahead and went because I wanted people to see. I didn't want to just keep, or to teach my little girl to be silent all the time and to keep things in all the time. I wanted her to see, that, or people to see, that something had happened. And so one of the ladies at this church in South Haven, Mississippi, that we went with at Grief Share, I was attending Grief Share classes there, and she drove my daughter and I to, even though that was like almost a 2-hour drive, she drove us to Tupelo to save. So that was really kind of her. So.
What advice would you give someone who was in your previous situation?
We don't want our kids to see us, and I mean, we want our kids to grow up well, but when they see us getting abused, or they see us getting hurt, that's sort of teaching them that it's okay, to let other people hit you and to let other people harm you. And I know there's plenty of times when people might say something to me that I don't say anything, but in this situation, when they started hitting me, if they hit you once, they'll hit you again. And so, even though it's difficult to leave, it's difficult to change your whole entire life. It's difficult to make changes in your life, but if you make a list of all the good things that's going on, and you make a list of all the wrong, and you can tell, that what you need to do for yourself and for your family to make changes. It's hard, but sometimes that's what we need to do.
Is there anything else you'd like to share with us?
Just don't give up, even when life, is hard and it seems like nothing is going right. It doesn't seem like nothing is going right, and everything is wrong or horrible. Things will get better, and so just don't give up.
So from the top, I guess, my name is Michael Estes. I was born in Pascagoula, Mississippi. I lived in the county line of George County and Jackson for most of my life, and I went to school at East Central. It was pretty rough. Did not do so well in school. I was really passionate about theater, and that was pretty much the only reason I went to school. And a large, pretty traumatic series of events happened. It involved a female, and I ended up committing suicide, or attempting so, when I was a sophomore. And I had to do a week stint in Brentwood, which is a mental institution in Brentwood in Jackson, Mississippi. And come back, told myself I wasn't going to go back, but I ended up going back, and it still didn't get any better. So senior year, I just dropped out and was originally going to go to trade school. That fell through, and I eventually, the whole time during that span of time, I was dabbling in drugs. Ended up getting a lot worse over time. Started selling drugs, started doing everything pretty much what you're not supposed to do. I did it. And as far as the drug history goes, I've done everything you can possibly think of. I never used a needle, but thankful for that. But if you can think of it, I've probably done it. After high school, I was in and out of my parents' house. I didn't really want to burden them with what I was going on because I knew I was an addict, but I didn't really want to stay there. So I couch hopped for a lot of the time, going between buddy's house to buddy's house, and eventually led up to the point where I caught a charge and ended up doing some time in the county, ended up getting put on drug court, which was the best thing that ever happened to me. A lot of people talk really bad about it, but it changed my life for sure. And when that happened, I got put on drug court, went to rehab one time, come home, was home for maybe about a month, didn't do too well, ended up going back to jail, and was pretty much in and out of that whole thing for my first 2 years on drug court. Ended up going to like 3 rehabs. There was a program or place they could send me, they'd send me there. I did 6 months in prison behind it, and I'd come home after that, and that was really my eye-opening point in my life. Was I had turned 21 in jail, turned 20 in jail, and it was, my birthday cake was an amalgamation of just bread and stuff they threw together, and it was probably one of the worst birthday cakes I've ever had in my life. And so I'd come home not long after my 22nd birthday, I think. oh no, right before my 22nd birthday. I'd come home on like September 8th, and I told myself things were going to be different. And on my birthday, I overdosed on fentanyl, and I was clinically dead twice. And the really irony part of the story is that my cousin, he first started on the Moss Point Police Department within that first week, and one of his first calls to respond to me overdosing. And so I was trying to hide it from my mom and my job and everyone. I told him I had a heat stroke, and my cousin, because he was on the force, told my mom what had happened. And I'd just come home from prison, so I was scared to death to tell my case manager on my probation, because I was like, they're just going to send me to prison and this is it. Well, I talked to my mom, because I knew she was really glad that I was home, and she was like, well, what are you going to do? And I was like, well, I think I'm going to have to tell my case manager. She goes, that sounds like something a man would do. And that always stuck with me, that moment right there. And so reluctantly, I texted my case manager, and I told her, I was like, hey, overdosed yesterday. I'm sure you already know. I just wanted to tell you before you found out. I don't want you to think I'm trying to run or anything. And she texted me the next day, told me to turn myself in. And then I went to my final rehab, where I spent 6 to 7 months there. And that was probably the best place I've ever been. That was the moment, that stint was the moment where I grew up. And a lot of good people there helped me. I went through a really intense trauma therapy, a lot of counseling, a lot of things I needed that I didn't have access to without drug court funding it and all that stuff. I'd come home and went to a sober living house in Pascagoula, Mississippi called Stillwater. And I was there for about 5 months, give or take. And it got to the point where I'd gotten a job, I'd gotten stable, I'd gotten a car, and I'd gotten everything that I didn't necessarily have before, but I couldn't save any money whatsoever. And so I went back to my parents' house, but it wasn't an ideal living situation. My parents are great parents, love them to death. They're great people, but you know, everyone has their vices, and they had theirs. So I thought it'd be best for me to separate. So I went to a friend of mine's house who was also sober, doing really well in life, and crashed on his couch or her couch for a while. And that was when drug court put me into contact with community care and told me that if I needed a stable living situation, so I wasn't couch hopping, I needed an address because of my probation, obviously. And yeah, it didn't take them long at all. I think I applied my first week, and within the next week I was moving into my apartment. And it was the first time I'd ever had any sort of self-responsibility in my life. I had my own place, my own car, everything but it was falling on me. And it was pretty overwhelming at first. Big change in life, but it pretty quickly got pretty comfortable for me. And other than that, that's pretty much it. I'm still there to this day. I'm still under community care, obviously, and I still got a good job, still got my car. I'm 2 years off drugs, and I pick up my 1 year sober coin off everything, actually, like in 4 days or so. And so, yeah, my life's pretty much changed. As good as it could possibly have changed, it changed. And there's a lot of moving powers with that one, but one of them is definitely community care.
So you said that you were but you've moved into an apartment. What do you think was the hardest part about transitioning from couch hopping and being on your own to being in an apartment?
Honestly, probably the loneliness. That was the biggest thing, because I went from being surrounded by people, whether or not they had my best interest at heart or not, it was still a human interaction. And when I moved into my apartment, especially since I'd actually committed to changing my life, my catalog of friends weren't really all there. So I really didn't have anybody as far as friends go, especially since everyone's living their own lives now, the ones that did get better, and they're kind of doing their own thing. And you know, life happens, and I didn't really have anyone that would come in and out, or to this day there's probably only a handful of people that know where I live. And at first it was hard to adjust to that, trying to sleep with no background noise, which, especially coming out of prison, that was one thing you got really comfortable with, was just outside noise, just racket, and just constant something always going on. So when I settled down and I was just in my apartment and didn't have really anything but my PlayStation, the silence was really overwhelming. And but it quickly was like, this is what peace is. This is what that is. There's no chaos. There's no extra stuff going on. It's just me and my life. And that was probably one of the best feelings, that transition from loneliness to just peace. and that was great. Something I still deal with every now and then. I'd be like, damn, I don't know if I can cuss in this or not. But, I was like, darn, it's pretty bad just sitting here on my own. Like, I wish I had somebody over or something. And then I'm like, what good would that do? Like, just gonna eat my food or some stuff like that. I need that. So, kind of just gotten used to it at this point.
And then what was your biggest motivation while you were couch hopping to keep you going?
My biggest motivation, it changed over time, but I guess the constant steady was especially when I was still using, was that I knew I was an addict, and I knew that was going to play. Even if I did somehow get my own place, somehow got on my own feet, I still didn't get the help I needed. So I was still an addict at heart, and it probably wouldn't taken long for me to end up selling whatever it was I had just to go get high or something. So the fact that I knew I needed help and was actually in a position to get it and change for the better, it kept me going on that. And then, probation definitely helps too. So
What stigmas do you think surround people who are homeless?
I think most people, when they see homeless, they just think of, your average stuck on their corner, just doing drugs, just sleeping on the side of the road, which that is a form of homeless, but I think it goes a lot deeper than that. I think there's a lot of different forms of homelessness. Like, there's people who aren't technically homeless, but they have a place to go, but it's not a good environment, and that won't affect their life or what they're trying to move for themselves for the better. It's almost like an anchor. Like, I feel like at certain points, some of the houses I was going to, I feel like I'd have done better on my own on the street than I would have gone to their sleeping on their couch, because the surroundings was just further hindering my progress of going forward through life. And even, hell, I've been on the street too. I've had that period of time where I was just, granted it was pretty brief, but I had that point in time in that solitude, that realizing that you've really fallen this far, that you are on the side of the road right now, and you could call somebody, but what good would that do? That realization really hits hard sometimes when you're sitting there and you just realize, wow, I was in class, I had scholarships, I had everything, and then the series of events that took part, you really just threw that away, and now you're on the street, all for drugs and a significant other. So it was a lot of eye-opening experiences, but a lot of the ones that I couldn't capitalize on because of my foggy mind at the time.
And one of our main goals, we have two goals, is to break the stigma down around people who are homeless, and then another one is to find help. So what would your advice be to someone who is seeking help and who is currently homeless?
Seeking help, specifically in the field of homelessness, is there's a lot of places a lot of people don't know about. You just got to go ask. Like, a lot of churches are plugged into the whole scene. They could point you in the direction, because there was a lot of programs I didn't even know about until I got put on drug court, like the Open Doors program, community care program, just to name a couple. And then there's always the benefit of a sober living or transitional housing, which granted you will have to eventually pay on, but there's always that blank period where a drug addict, there's an opiate grant, especially nowadays, which is really rampant. You can get in, they'll pay for everything. And I've pretty much accessed all these programs, except I don't think I went through Open Doors, but community care, opiate grants, the whole nine, I've went through it, and yeah, definitely helped a lot.
And then you said you didn't go through Open Doors, you went through community?
Yeah, I went through a community care network.
Okay. How did you find out about that program?
It was actually my aftercare provider for my drug court, which aftercare is pretty much just a group therapy session, for lack of a better term. And that man, he told me, he was like, hey, I've been in touch with some people through it was the adolescent drug court, he also works with that. He was in touch with them. And I guess I don't know if he learned it through Open Doors or if he just learned it through the grapevine, someone that he works with, and he told me about it, and he was like, this is something you might want to think about applying for. And I was like, there's nothing to think about, I'll apply for it, where's the paperwork? So I signed up for it, and yeah, within the next week, they had approved me, looked for an apartment. That following week, I was moving in. It was really convenient too, because it's right around the block from where I work at, so it's and it was in town with my probation and everything, so it was all really right there, and I couldn't ask for a better opportunity at that point.
And finally, how long did it take for you to find and obtain housing?
Once I found out about the program, like I said, about 2 weeks, I was in the house. But not knowing what my assets were that I could access, that was definitely, it took me a while to even know about it. But once, like I said, yeah, once I found out about it, it didn't take long at all, 2 weeks max.
All right.
Do you have anything to add? Do you have anything else to add?
That's it.
Okay.